My name is Nathan Anacone, software developer with a particular interest in machine learning and artificial intelligence. And I am coming up with this sort of school of thought or philosophy about how people are going to program in the future that I call dialogic programming. And I'm basically getting my thoughts out there so when everyone does things like this in a few years, I can claim credit for it. And basically, what dialogic programming is, it's sort of a formalized, systematized way of doing prompt development as a software developer. Okay, so it kind of fuses old-fashioned programming, writing code with use of sort of intentional use of large language models. And this is where I think the field is headed. And so this video, I basically wanted to show off some techniques in order to illustrate my ideas here about dialogic programming. And to do that, we're basically going to work through FizzBuzz. For anyone who has tried to get a software engineering job back in the good old days, you might actually see, being able to solve FizzBuzz might actually get you to pass an interview. But basically, for everyone else who's kind of new, FizzBuzz is basically this problem where, for every number divisible by 3, print fizz instead of the number. For every number divisible by 5, print buzz. For numbers that are both, print fizz buzz instead of the number. So you receive a number, you go through it. And what I want to demonstrate here is some different prompting techniques and kind of the general workflow of how you might use dialogic programming. So there are a couple different techniques that I have identified, and you can kind of break them into generative prompts, which give you code, and explanatory prompts. And what we're going to do here is I have an intentionally horrific implementation of FizzBuzz here, and we're going to try to improve it. And so, we're going to assume we don't know this is bad code, okay? We're just going to copy it. And, there's different techniques that I found very useful. And one of them is this sort of breakdown technique. Here I have ChatGPT open, and I'm just going to say, break this code down for me in detail, explaining what it does. And here you go. It's going to break everything down. And now a Dialogic developer is going to read all of this, okay, carefully. And the main loop is, see, ChatGPT is already pointing out, like, what are you doing? Like, we're not going to concern ourselves about that. For demonstration purposes, let me kind of demonstrate this interrogative loop, which is sort of the basic process. I'm asking this chatbot about this code because I don't understand it, right? I'm ignorant. Well, I need to continue till I'm no longer ignorant about the code. I call this the interrogative loop. So I'm going to be like, okay, can you break this down further? Now, again, I would read all of this and continue until I have understood everything to my satisfaction. So that's the breakdown pattern. Now this is the next pattern is pretty straightforward. Call this the critique pattern. And you could just say, suggest ways this code could be improved. Okay. And it's going to go on. You're going to read what it says. You're going to analyze it. So here it's just giving me the answer. And that's fine. The point is, make sure you understand it. It's teaching you a lot of important stuff here. Another technique, and we're not really necessarily going to go through all of these, but it's good to ask it to basically provide feedback on everything you're doing here, so that you're not just mindlessly copying and pasting. You're in a sort of engaged process here. It's kind of difficult to simulate this. And those are explanatory prompts. Now we have generative prompts, okay? This is where you're specifically asking it for code. Now, some of these are a bit, FizzBuzz is a little too simplistic to really show off the power of this. But one pattern is this multi-option pattern, okay? Where you basically ask it for basically multiple different approaches. And once again, you would consider your requirements and what you need for your project, and you would engage in that interrogative loop and evaluate which of these options is best. Talk about it. Continue until satisfied. Another one is to take a piece of code and ask it to basically recast it into, some form of well-known design pattern, a decorator pattern, a factory pattern. This is more good for architectures. Not really. FizzBuzz is a little too simple. So for this completion pattern, this is another handy technique where you already know what you want to do, but you want to save time. This is good because you can always sort of vet the results. So you can just basically say, obviously your wording can vary. This is kind of a lazy way to write the prompt. But, it's going to know what to do here, okay? And another pattern is document this code, write explanatory this is useful too. You can really get good documentation. Um, this is what these language models excel at. So you want to play to those strengths. So as you can see, the benefits of these patterns, you learn something, you're engaged, you're using your knowledge of programming, you're not beholden necessarily to the AI. You're guiding the whole process with your understanding of this is what you're still engineering. You evaluate multiple options. And overall, I believe this process will lead to better code quality. And bear in mind that prompts can be, these techniques can be combined. You know, here's an example of, sorry, I got a little. Here's an example of combining the design pattern request and multi-option. You're asking it to refactor for multiple different design patterns, see which is best. You'll talk about it, interrogative loop, make your decisions. And you can always provide more detail. Here's a more detailed prompt asking the same, but specifically for a factory and decorator. You get it. Your knowledge is guiding the process. You know what you're asking for, and you're working with the LLM. So really, with this whole way of doing things, there's really one major anti-pattern, which is just the gimme prompt, is what I'm calling it. So this is when you basically just ask, and I feel like it's a little, ChatGPT is a little irritated, but you're just asking, not even reading it, whatever. I just ask, copy, copy, I don't care, paste, thanks. You're not thinking, you're not learning, you're not engaging, you're just asking for quick answers, you're not evaluating it, and there's drawbacks here. No learning, your ignorance is what's guiding it. So it's basically rudderless. You're not evaluating options. You're introducing sort of mystery code, and options of better code are diminished, and you risk looking like a fool. You're just doing something without thinking about it, and you're kind of making yourself redundant. So there you have it. These are some examples of dialogic programming, very simple techniques for how to use an LLM properly while developing software. Okay, so you're still engaging in a process. You're still basically coding. Like you're not necessarily writing the code as much. Although in a real project, you'd be diving in and customizing things here, and these things, don't get me started about how we need like better, how I want to work on these sort of integrated code editors that use LLMs, conversational interfaces, but it's a back and forth discussing process. And plus, now look, you can show your boss, oh, look, I have this whole well documented, every single step is, look at this, everything explained. It's beautiful. So this is what I'm pushing for. Um, you know, we're evolving, I think, beyond a software developer just writing code. We're getting into something new, and this is how I want to demonstrate some of that.